6 times, the officiant asked if I, Olivia Reed, took this man to be my husband. 6 times, the question hung in the air at our wedding ceremony. Finally, summoning a courage I didn't know I possessed, I looked Ethan Hayes in the eye and said, I don't. Just half an hour earlier, hidden in the hotel's fire escape stairwell, I had watched his past kiss him full on the lips. I couldn't see his expression, but he hadn't pushed her away. His white moonlight, Chloe. He drifted off again, right there in the opulent candy shop, while we were supposed to be choosing wedding favors. Sir? You've looked at quite a few options. Haven't he caught your eye? The sales assistant's relentlessly cheerful voice finally acquired a faint edge of impatience, snapping Ethan back to the present. He was holding a small, foil-wrapped chocolate ball, staring blankly at it. Do you, he asked, his voice distant, happen to have those liqueur-filled chocolates? He gestured with the candy in his hand. I don't remember the brand, but they were round like this, wrapped in colorful foil. You bite into them, and there's a sweet, low-alcohol liquid inside. The assistant's face brightened with recognition. Ah, I know the ones you mean. They used to be very popular, but people don't really go for them much anymore. The manufacturers stopped making them years ago. Is that so? It really has been a long time since I've seen them. The note of genuine regret in his voice was impossible to miss. It wasn't just about candy. Mr. Hayes, we have many other wonderful chocolates, the assistant chirped, ever the professional, trying to salvage the sale. The newer styles have much richer textures and more interesting fillings. This one with nuts is a bestseller. Would you and your fiancé like to try some? No, thank you. That specific kind is what I wanted. If you don't have it, then never mind. Ethan placed the sample back on the display rack with a sigh, turning to me. Olivia, why don't you choose? What kind of candy do you like? Before I could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID, silenced it. It rang again. He silenced it again. When it immediately rang a third time, hesitation flickered across his face. Seeing the strained smile on the sales assistant's face, I intervened. Maybe it's urgent. You should take the call. I can look around by myself. Relief washed over his features. He stepped outside the shop, turning his back slightly. Through the glass storefront, I watched his profile. His lips moved only occasionally. The caller was doing most of the talking. What were they saying? The curiosity gnawed at me. Even though Ethan always angled his phone screen away from me, I knew. I knew the voice on the other end belonged to Chloe Chin, his unforgettable ex-girlfriend. I sighed inwardly. His own transparent attempts at concealment were his biggest betrayal. And I, the willing fool, pretended not to notice. The sales assistant quickly redirected her enthusiastic pitch towards me. I've decided, I cut her off swiftly. We'll take the assorted set you recommended earlier. Please just prepare that for us. Certainly, she beamed, turning to gather the items. As she moved away, I stopped her. Actually, I added, my voice cool, no chocolates. None at all. Any brand, any style. Are you sure, Ms. Reed? She asked, bewildered. I thought, after Mr. Hayes was looking for that specific liqueur chocolate for so long. I assumed it was your favorite. No, I stated flatly. I detest chocolate. Especially liqueur-filled ones. Ignoring the awkward, searching look in her eyes, I turned and walked towards the plush sofa near the glass wall. Ethan stood just outside, his back still to me, the phone call finally ending. I pulled out my own phone, opened my social media feed. It only took a few swipes. Chloe had posted last night, haven't had this in ages. Some things, like chocolate and men, were just better back then. The accompanying photo was of the exact liqueur-filled chocolate Ethan had just been searching for. An old picture, likely taken when he was still hers. The chocolate in the photo was bitten, revealing the glistening teeth marks on the outer shell and the clear liquid pooled within. Even through the screen, I could almost taste the imagined burst of rich chocolate and sweet liqueur, an echo of young lovers lost in a passionate kiss. It was undeniably alluring. I looked up again at Ethan through the glass. His name wasn't on the list for her post, but I knew he'd seen it. Ever since Chloe announced her divorce online, these moments of distraction, these vacant stares, had become increasingly frequent during our frantic wedding preparations. Just like moments ago. Had his heart pulsed with that same slow, crawling itch of longing when he saw her post? A childish competitiveness stirred within me. I deliberately liked Chloe's post, then added a comment. Such a shame. Even the sweetest things get discontinued eventually. Ethan's phone call had dragged on. The assistant had already informed me the candy order was ready and was now asking about favor boxes. She eagerly showed me pictures on her phone, chic, Instagrammable boxes tied with silk ribbons, rustic. Wooden boxes for a forest theme, quirky, novelty boxes for a modern twist. Her fingers flew across the screen, her sails pitch a relentless barrage. I had no chance to refuse, resigned to picking one at random just to escape the onslaught. Finally, Ethan hung up and came back inside. He walked towards me, a smile on his lips that didn't reach his eyes. All set? His tone was gentle, but I couldn't help scrutinizing every micro-expression, wondering if this tenderness was merely the leftover warmth from his conversation with another woman. Yes, the candy is sorted. The assistant was just asking if we wanted to choose the favor boxes now too. The clever assistant immediately pivoted, holding her phone up for Ethan, ready to repeat her spiel. He glanced at the options, then frowned, gently waving her hand away. Do you have anything in a European fairy tale style? Something more romantic, whimsical. He was always like this, decisive, knowing exactly what he wanted, his requirements clear, leaving no room for negotiation. I'm sorry, sir, our standard collection doesn't include that specific style. The assistant, momentarily deflated, quickly rallied, drawing on her sales experience. However, we do offer custom design services. It would involve an additional design fee, of course. And since you mentioned your wedding is quite soon, there would be a rush charge as well. Shall I look into that for you? The extra cost isn't an issue, Ethan replied swiftly. Proceed with the custom design based on my requirements, expedited. Get me a sample as soon as possible. I tugged at his sleeve, whispering under the assistant's interested gaze, maybe we should just pick a standard one? Customizing seems like too much hassle, and it's not very practical. He patted my hand reassuringly. It can't be just anything, Olivia. I want to give you the most unforgettable wedding. Every detail has to be perfect. He truly was playing the perfect groom. He seemed far more invested in the wedding details than I was. Our roles felt reversed. I, like many men reportedly do, found the endless planning tiresome, lacking the grand romantic vision. I didn't care for opulent fairy tale themes, or specific candies, or elaborate guest favors. If I could, I would have chosen a simple, intimate ceremony. Just us. No audience needed. Me, in a simple, elegant satin dress I loved, walking towards my groom. Our eyes locked, saying, I do, with complete sincerity, followed by a deep, uninhibited kiss. But he always insisted on giving me the best. How could I be the villain, rejecting his apparent generosity? Yet, as the wedding took shape, reflecting a vision so different from my own quiet desires, I couldn't shake the nagging doubt. Was this best truly meant for me? The sales assistant looked at me with undisguised envy, as if I were the luckiest bride-to-be she'd ever encountered. I forced a smile, accepting defeat. All right, I said. Let's go with custom. The drive back was thick with an uncomfortable silence. I stared out the window from the moment we got in the car. Ethan seemed equally disinclined to talk. The quiet was broken only when his mother called, inviting us over for dinner. Olivia, dear. Mom got some wonderful hairy crabs flown in just for you. They're steaming right now, just waiting for you too. Ethan had the phone on speaker, mounted on the dashboard. His mother's warm, slightly accented voice, full of genuine affection, instantly thawed the frosty silence in the car. A warmth spread through my chest. Okay, Auntie. We're on our way. We'll be there soon. I replied quickly. He came from an enviably happy, stable family with loving, accepting parents. I never knew how he explained our unconventional history, but they had always treated me with exceptional kindness. I, on the other hand, hadn't invited any relatives or unnecessary acquaintances to witness my most important moment. Because I didn't even have parents to invite. After dinner, despite Mrs. Hayes's warm insistence that we stay longer, Ethan firmly guided me towards the door, making excuses about needing to get back. He knew I struggled with navigating prolonged interactions with elders. As a friend, as a lover, he had always been almost impeccable in his care for me. Being a psychologist is a perilous profession. In my first couple of years, I often felt myself being dragged into the despair of the souls I tried to help. Perched on the edge of the abyss, trying to pull others back, I sometimes lost my footing and tumbled in myself. During those darkest nights, I would sneak out onto deserted streets, screaming, singing, teetering on the edge of madness. It was Ethan who held me tight, pulled me back. He became my anchor, the solid tree trunk that allowed my frayed rope to hold fast. Back at our apartment, the first thing visible upon opening the door was my wedding dress. Ethan had cleared a corner of the living room specifically for it, bathed in the pure white beam of a spotlight from the ceiling. The intricate beadwork and shimmering sequins made the white fabric appear blindingly, ethereally bright. But standing there, under that cold light, a sudden chill washed over me. I felt like a traveler lost too long in a snowstorm, experiencing that disorienting, heart-stopping glare just before an avalanche hits. I wasn't afraid of snow blindness. I was terrified of being blind to my own heart. The dress was Ethan's creation, custom-made from a design sketch he provided. I didn't know the designer, didn't particularly care for the style, but I had been captivated by the look in Ethan's eyes when I first tried it on. His gaze had been filled with an incandescent admiration. Beautiful, he'd breathed. I love it. What do you think? Faced with such undisguised appreciation, my own preferences dissolved. I love it too, I'd replied. But the dress hadn't initially been my size. It only arrived a week ago, finally altered to fit, meticulously protected. The night it arrived, feeling emboldened, I put on the perfectly fitted gown again and lay down on Ethan's bed. For the past 6 years, despite countless attempts to bridge the final gap between us, he had never fully let his guard down. His bedroom door had remained my boundary line, a space I couldn't cross if I wanted to maintain the fragile facade of our friendship. But we were getting married now, weren't we? It was time. Inhaling his scent from the pillow, my mind raced with anticipation. The shower stopped. Soon, he emerged, wrapped in a bathrobe, toweling his damp hair. The moment he saw me, lying there in the wedding dress, pure panic flashed in his eyes. My own hopeful, pounding heartbeat instantly faltered. He averted his gaze, unsure how to face me, or perhaps, unsure how to face his past and present converging in one woman on his bed. What are you doing here? He hesitated, perching on the edge of the bed, his back to me. I'll have to move in eventually. Shouldn't we get used to it? It was the first truly impulsive, demanding thing I had done in 6 years. I had always been afraid that letting go, pushing too hard, would make him leave. He wouldn't try to keep me, just as he hadn't fought for Chloe, despite loving her so deeply. He didn't beg, didn't plead. He wouldn't come to me, so I went to him. Reaching behind my back, the soft rasp of the zipper slowly descending became a form of torture for us both. I gently turned his face towards me, cupping it in my hands. Ethan, I whispered, look at me. Only me. He flinched away. This dress, it's so ethereal. Don't get it dirty. Ethereal. The word mocked me. It never applied to me. I refused to let him escape, holding his face firmly. I don't want to be ethereal. I want every inch of your skin to tremble for me. My hand slid to the back of his neck, fingers tangling in his still damp hair, tracing a path downwards. Gently, subtly, I advanced, loosening the knot of his bathrobe belt. Just one more step. My lips were inches from his. But the kiss never landed. The same hands that had once saved me now extinguished the last embers of my hope. He loved the dress, not the woman wearing it. Before retreating to my own room, defeated, I whispered, Ethan, promise me. Don't change. What I craved, above all else, was constancy, unwavering devotion. I loved Ethan. If he could love only me, that would be ideal. If not, then not loving me at all would be preferable. A heart split in 2 bleeds on everyone involved. I wouldn't end up like my mother, sharing a man with another woman. The thought alone felt unclean. Loneliness seems to be my default state. I had few friends growing up, which is perhaps why, when I finally found Ethan, I clung to him, content with our ambiguous friendship for all these years. Today, I can hardly distinguish if my feeling for him is more need or more love. As a child, evenings were often spent watching television dramas with my mother. In the mandatory happy endings, the bride, radiant with sincere joy, would walk down the aisle on her father's arm. The father, no matter how stoic, would inevitably become emotional. After a tearful exchange of words, he would place his daughter's white-gloved hand into the waiting groom's, sometimes overcome with such reluctance, such sorrow, it was as if he were parting with a priceless family heirloom. So fake. I would always scoff at these scenes. My mother, more childlike than I, would often weep more intensely than the characters on screen. Her acting was far superior, I thought. If she had played the part, perhaps it would have been more moving, though her looks weren't quite leading lady material. How's it fake? All parents love their daughters, she'd sniffle. Really? Then why doesn't Dad ever come home? My question was cruel, intentionally so. I knew the truth. Dad had another family elsewhere. Ever since I could remember, he was rarely around. Mom claimed he was busy with business, urged me to understand. And I did, partially because each rare visit brought new and exciting toys. I tolerated his occasional returns, his prickly, stubbled kisses, his forced affection. I believed we were a normal family. Until I grew older, started school, ventured further afield. Whispers from neighbors, snippets of conversation, inevitably reached my ears, piecing together the truth my mother had hidden. You know Mr. Reed keeps a mistress, right? Hey, heard your dad doesn't want you anymore. My mom says he has a son with the other woman. The first time I heard such things, I ran home crying, demanding answers. Is it true? Why did you lie to me? Mom clamped her hand over my mouth, her eyes fierce. Don't listen to them. It's those vixens outside, seducing him. Your father will come back, he has to. I will never divorce him, never let him be happy out there. As long as we're married, I am Mrs. Reed. The raw hatred in her eyes, something I'd never seen before, frightened me into silence. Later, hearing her repeat similar refrains, I understood. It wasn't just hatred. It was love, twisted and desperate. The harsher her words, the deeper her love. She not only refused to let me question her love, but she also demanded I wear the same mask of ignorance, pretending to love Dad just as before. I wasn't as good an actress as she was. I couldn't do it. He's busy with work, you need to understand. He loves you, he loves this family, she would chant, perhaps more to convince herself than me. He'll come back eventually. When you grow up and get married, you'll walk down the aisle on his arm, towards the man you love. I started responding with my own harsh words, uncontrollably. I don't want him. And I don't want to get married, ever. Mom would always push me lightly. Don't talk such nonsense, child. It was nonsense. The day I met Ethan, my childish vow evaporated instantly. I dreamt of marrying him. How could I not? He appeared when I was most terrified, a sudden, dazzling presence that stirred the stagnant waters of my heart into tumultuous waves. He owed me. He had to take responsibility for saving me, for making me feel again. By the time I went to university, Dad had finally returned home for good. He and Mom opened a small local supermarket, settling into a semblance of ordinary life. Mom, like a victorious general after a long siege, finally straightened her spine and began socializing. Again. I heard her boasting more than once, see? Men know who's really important in the end. Those cheap things outside are just for fun. When it's time, they always come home. She beamed with such radiant triumph. I didn't understand it, but I felt happy for her. However, I had long grown unaccustomed to having a father present. I couldn't accept his belated attempts at affection with the same childhood ignorance. So, I deliberately chose a university far from home. Even during holidays, I made excuses not to return. During the summer break after my sophomore year, Mom finally reached her breaking point. She couldn't accept that the family she had fought so hard to keep whole was losing another member. I remember that night vividly. Sitting on a bench in the old, dilapidated park near campus, listening to her tearful accusations over the phone. Why are you so disobedient? Are you trying to kill your mother? The summer night air was thick with mosquitoes. I slapped one feasting on my calf, holding the phone with my other hand, offering placating lies. I'm not, Mom, really. I just have things to do at school. I promise, next break, I'll definitely come home. After much back and forth, constrained by the distance, she finally relented, extracting multiple promises before hanging up. Her parting shot, however, lingered. You really are your father's daughter. Even the excuses you make sound just like his when he was young. I froze for a moment, then a strange, bitter amusement surfaced. Genetics truly are a marvel. I had become the very thing I despised. I didn't realize I'd laughed aloud, a sound that nearly cost me my life. Hey pretty lady, what's so funny? Share the joke with Uncle. Engrossed in placating my mother, I hadn't noticed the figure emerging from the park's deeper shadows. A sleazy older man, reeking of cheap alcohol, wearing a stained, faded t-shirt and ill-fitting trousers, lurched towards me. Instinctively, I recoiled, scrambling to run. This only seemed to excite him. His laughter, a rattling, chain-like sound, grew closer. Every nerve ending screamed danger. I sprinted down the narrow park path towards the exit, the horrifying laughter echoing, gaining on me. "Help!" I screamed. No one answered. I ran blindly, finally spotting the park gates ahead, the main road beyond, traffic lights promising civilization, people, safety. But I was too slow. Near the overgrown flower beds at the exit, a rough, grimy forearm clamped around my neck, cutting off my breath. Despair washed over me as I heard his triumphant laughter right behind me. Struggling futilely, I was dragged back towards the deeper, darker woods. "Let go of me. Help! Help!" I shrieked with every ounce of strength I had. And then, Ethan descended like an answer to a prayer. I lack the words to describe what he meant to me in that moment. All metaphors feel shallow, inadequate to capture the overwhelming flood of emotion. It was then I understood every cheesy rom-com trope. Hero saving the damsel wasn't cliché. Offering oneself in gratitude wasn't hyperbole. A hero was simply a hero. From the instant he appeared, I began to love him. His strong, young arms easily subdued the man, bringing him to his knees. My own heart surrendered just as completely, falling irrevocably. But youth breeds carelessness. As we prepared to escort the man to the police station, he produced a small hidden knife, slashing Ethan's arm. The momentary lapse was enough. The man scrambled away and vanished into the darkness. Ethan was incredibly frustrated. I, however, was frantic, staring at the blood welling from the gash. I insisted we go to the hospital. He, gritting his teeth against the pain, tried to reassure me with a smile. "It's okay," I looked. "It's not deep. I'll just clean it up back at the dorm." Then he added, "Don't worry. I'm a postgraduate student in clinical medicine at a university." "You look like a student too?" "Hi, I'm Ethan Hayes. Want to be friends?" Refusal was impossible. What a coincidence. "Nice to meet you, senior. I'm Olivia Reed, same university." Even more coincidentally, I also studied medicine, though my focus was the human psyche. Naturally, we walked back to the campus together. At a streetlight crossing, bathed in the yellow glow, I looked up at his face. A strong jawline, well-defined features, an air of dependable solidity. He looked safe. Of course, I'd imagined my future partner. I'd created lists of criteria, then endlessly revised them, never settling. But after Ethan appeared, all my requirements, my standards, warped and reshaped themselves around him. Whatever he was, that's what I liked. Perhaps my stare was too intense. He cleared his throat, looking down, offering gentle advice. "Although it wasn't your fault. Girls shouldn't wander around secluded places alone at night. A gentleman does not stand beneath a collapsing wall. Not every man can restrain himself from becoming that collapsing wall." "I wasn't just wandering," I countered. "I was taking a walk and I stopped to take a phone call." "A walk?" "Yes. As long as it's not raining, I walk in that park every evening," I answered earnestly. The baffled expression on his face made him look endearingly foolish. Despite the lingering fear, a bubble of amusement rose within me. The old park near the university was largely neglected. Apart from a small lake choked with green algae, it offered little aesthetic appeal, especially with its overgrown flower beds. Few people ever went there. I'd stumbled upon it by chance and grown fond of its solitude. At first, I visited occasionally. As the bothersome phone calls from home increased, so did my visits. "If you like walking, couldn't you go during the day? Or ask someone to go with you?" he pressed. "No. I have too many worries to walk off. I need the quiet of the night. Company is too distracting." He paused, then asked, "Does walking really get rid of worries?" Before I could answer, he offered, "Would you mind if I joined you sometime? Coincidentally, I have plenty of worries I need to walk off too." "Okay." My heart leaped, agreeing before my brain could process. Despite knowing almost nothing about him, my heart hammered uncontrollably. He was a wildfire, raging through my carefully guarded heartland. With someone you like, chatter isn't noise. It's the tentative exchange, the slow offering of two hearts. But fate, it seems, is exceptionally cruel to me. Just as I escaped the shadow of my father, I found myself trapped in the shadow of my mother's fate, loving a man who didn't love me back. Only later did I learn that all coincidences are merely destiny in disguise. The day my heart came alive for Ethan, his had already died for another woman. After that night, we exchanged contact information. The old park became my domain, and like a gracious host, I showed him every hidden corner. I never knew I could be so talkative. The park was my private queendom, I its devoted ruler, attempting to ensnare this captivating monk, Tang Sanzang, who had wandered into my territory. He willingly stayed. My kingdom became ours. We created our own happiness within its bounds. Through the turning seasons, we listened to the winds whisper. When boredom struck, even the leaves weren't safe from our scrutiny. The delicate green needles of the dawn redwood, surprisingly sharp. The sensitive mimosa, folding its leaves shyly at the slightest touch. The weeping willows lining the lake, their branches cascading downwards. In winter winds, we shivered alongside the bare willow branches. I often studied his expressions, trying to discern the nature of the worries he'd mentioned, trying to guess who held the privilege of causing him such melancholy, just as my family caused mine. But I never asked directly. We existed in this comfortable space between friendship and something more, a slow, quiet courtship that felt old-fashioned and romantic. In our 5th year of knowing each other, I stubbornly remained in the city, partly to avoid going home, mostly because he was local. He owned 2 apartments and offered me the spare one at an incredibly low friend rate to save me rent. I jumped at the chance, terrified he might change his mind. After graduation, we both became doctors, he saving lives, I saving minds. But often we were powerless, watching bodies grow cold, spirits wither. Our respective burdens, our worries, only multiplied. The old park remained our sanctuary, our off-duty hours spent wandering its familiar paths. I was content to waste time on him. I naively assumed he felt the same, never realizing that within our time, he was secretly dwelling in the past, reliving moments with another woman. One day, he excitedly pulled me over to show me a discovery: wild mushrooms sprung up in the flower beds, fed by the park's damp earth, gifted by spores carried on the wind. Driven by our medical training, we meticulously identified them, confirming, thankfully, they were non-toxic. Should I pick them? I can make soup for you back home, he suggested, his face alight with childish excitement. Yes, they look so fresh. This soup will be amazing. He was an excellent cook. They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. The same holds true for women who can't cook when faced with a man who can. The soup that day was exquisite, so delicious it went straight to my head. Watching him watch me eat, an irrepressible desire surged. I wanted this man, all to myself. So I asked, Ethan, do you remember the day we first met? Of course. It's strange, isn't it? Usually, no one goes to that park, but you just happened to be there that night. Do you think it was fate? Maybe you're my destiny? His prolonged silence caused the tentative, hopeful smile I'd plastered on my face to freeze. Haha, just kidding. Don't take it seriously, I stammered, trying to salvage the moment. But he wouldn't let me off the hook. I was there that day, he said quietly, his voice flat, because my girlfriend at the time wanted to break up with me. She probably chose that spot because it was secluded, less chance of a scene. She asked me to meet her there. An explanation I had never considered. I fell silent, then managed to ask, why did she break up with you? Ethan shrugged. What else? She found me boring. Fell for someone else. Was that person better than you? Is there any chance of reconciliation? He chuckled softly, a humorless sound. That's not a fair question. I can hardly admit I'm inferior, can I? As for winning her back, I won't force someone who doesn't love me to stay. It wasn't a heavy conversation, but the sadness clouding his eyes was unmistakable. Just like mine. He still loved her. I didn't need to ask. Just as my own confession died before it was fully born. Was it that those who hold the upper hand in love always take it for granted? I sympathized with him, just as I sympathized with my mother. I loved him, just as my mother loved my father. And so, I didn't give up. From that day on, I avoided the old park. Our walks continued, but I deliberately expanded our territory, exploring the entire city. He, however, remained trapped. While I tried to build new memories belonging only to us, he seemed determined to keep me imprisoned within the narrative of his past love. He turned me into his confidant, his living memory box. Her presence, blatant and unwelcome, squeezed itself between us. Day by day, through fragments of conversation during our walks, I slowly pieced together the image of this woman, Chloe Chin. She was also an alumna of our university, in the same year as Ethan. A campus celebrity, undoubtedly. I vaguely recalled seeing her perform a traditional dance at a university gala once, in a flowing green dress with water sleeves, captivating, moving with effortless grace, tilting her head like a proud peacock. I remember my roommate sighing that such women were born to be adored by men. And so she was. Even without paying attention, I'd heard rumors of her numerous admirers. I never imagined I'd one day qualify as her rival. In Ethan's telling, she became even more vivid, lover of vibrant fireworks, fairy tale romance, savory mushroom soup, and sweet liqueur-filled chocolates. During those days spent traversing the city on foot, I measured the depth of his love through the landscape of his memories of her. I often laughed at myself. What kind of woman falls in love with a man precisely because of his devotion to someone else? But it was true. The day he saved me, it was love at first sight. His subsequent unwavering loyalty to his past love only deepened my feelings over time. When affection deepens, like honey crystallizing in winter, thin liking solidifies into thick, enduring love. First-rate love is mutual devotion. That wasn't my fate. Mine was second-rate. I loved him, while he loved another. In our 6th year of knowing each other, Ethan proposed. I'll never forget that spring, the season when clusters of pink and white oleander bloomed defiantly. It was the season my mother, after a lifetime of self-deception, finally broke free from the lies that had bound her, in an act of ultimate, unyielding defiance. My father's illegitimate son showed up at their door. His demands were clear: the house, money, the supermarket business. My father quickly agreed. No discussion needed. A son, after all, could carry on the family name, far more valuable than a daughter destined to marry out. My mother, true to form, initially defended the man enshrined in her heart. Only this time, the object of her fierce protection shifted from my father to me, the daughter who was just as cold, just as absent as he had been. She bombarded me with calls, laced with threats of self-harm if I didn't return. Except for the last call. There were no threats then. She left quietly, decisively. A small measure of pesticide stirred into her evening soup. Her final wish granted, she would be with my father forever. The night I received the call from the police, I went alone to the old park. I wasn't interested in the scenery. I walked straight towards the murky lake. Ethan was already there, sitting on the bench by the water's edge. His back was to me. I couldn't see his face, only heard the faint sound of muffled sobs. Strange, I thought, I haven't even started crying yet, why is he? Perhaps hearing my approach, he turned. A single tear escaped, tracing a path through the lingering surprise, embarrassment, and sorrow on his face. What are you doing here? We asked simultaneously. He shifted, making space for me. I sat beside him. She got married, he finally whispered. Oh! My mom's gone. Took my dad with her, in a way. Silence descended again, heavy and thick. She's gone from my life now. Oh! I guess there's no one left to worry me anymore. We didn't speak further. I leaned my head against his shoulder. He leaned his head against mine. We cried freely then, our sobs mingling with the indifferent chirping of insects and croaking of frogs. The next day, I returned to my hometown for the funeral arrangements. Enduring the muttered curses of relatives I barely knew, I insisted on simplifying the proceedings. My mother loved so purely, so fiercely, I wouldn't allow her final departure to be marred by the judgment of strangers. After liquidating her assets, I found myself suddenly quite wealthy, finally possessing the means to leave the house that never felt like home, and the man I couldn't truly love back. My mother's life was a cautionary tale, jolting me awake. I feared repeating her fate. Ethan had offered to accompany me, but I declined. Before leaving the city, I secretly contacted a real estate agent to find a new apartment. I was walking my mother's path, but I refused to reach her destination. I would not settle for a humble / lowly love. The day I packed my belongings, ready to move out of the apartment we shared, Ethan stood watching silently for a long time before finally asking, "Do you have to go?" I don't have a reason to stay indefinitely, do I? He had no answer. After a moment, he suggested, "Want to go for a walk?" One last time. I considered it, then agreed. Okay. Putting down the box I was holding, I asked him to wait while I deliberately applied makeup and changed into the coat he'd once complimented. For this last encounter, I wanted him to remember me at my best. It was the first time we'd ever walked together during the day. We ambled aimlessly along the old street outside our apartment complex. Passing a familiar flower bed, he remarked suddenly, "Look, they've replanted again." I followed his gaze. Peonies in full, glorious bloom. The flower beds were constantly updated. Tulips in early spring, roses in summer, pansies in winter. Always showcasing flowers at their peak. "Beautiful," I murmured. "It's a shame they'll be replaced as soon as they start to fade." "You know," he said softly, "I never used to notice things like this before. You taught me to see the romance hidden everywhere in the city." I smiled faintly. At least my 6 years hadn't been entirely in vain. I hadn't been completely insignificant to him. We reached a fork in the road. I wanted to go left, he wanted right. As usual, we decided with rock, paper, scissors. But this time, he added stakes. "If I win this time," he said, his voice suddenly serious, "you stay. We get married." He sounded so solemn, so certain. "So," I said, "okay." Unrequited love is the norm, I reasoned. The chances of two people truly loving each other and getting married are statistically small. To find someone you love and have the chance to be with them, that was rare enough. I shouldn't ask for more. We held our fists behind our backs, holding our breath, counting together. 1, 2, 3. He threw rock. I threw scissors. It was a game he was always destined to win. Because, deep down, I wanted to lose. The story should have ended there, happily ever after. But then Chloe got divorced. The very day after I accepted Ethan's proposal, she sent me a friend request on WeChat. The message attached read simply, "It's Chloe Chen. Supreme confidence." She knew I'd recognize the name, knew I was aware of their entangled past. After accepting, she said nothing further. But her profile was public. Her latest post, from the previous day, announced her return to singlehood, broadcasting her availability to any man still carrying a torch for her. Or perhaps, broadcasting specifically to Ethan and me. "He can come back to me now. You should step aside gracefully." So that was it. But why? Ethan didn't break things off as she might have expected. Instead, quite unexpectedly, he threw himself into wedding preparations with accelerated fervor, acting as if I were the long-cherished love of his life, making him eager for marriage. Except, why the frequent, vacant stares? Why the moments of disconnect? I almost managed to convince myself he truly loved me. The wedding arrived with astonishing speed. The custom favor boxes made it just in time. But I still hadn't reconciled everything in my heart before finding myself sitting in the wedding car. Halfway to the venue, I had a sudden impulse. I instructed the driver to take a detour along the road bordering the old park. The driver politely pointed out we might be late. I looked at Ethan beside me, impeccably dressed in his tailored suit. He looked different now, more polished, more restrained than the impulsive young man who had rescued me years ago. His features seemed harder, his voice perpetually calm. Time had smoothed our rough edges, perhaps too much. He excelled at maintaining composure, even facing death daily in his work. I, meanwhile, remained entangled in the messy complexities of love and being loved, wrestling with ghosts of the past. Would the Ethan of today have had the courage to intervene, to save the girl I was back then? "I want to go past there," I stated quietly. "Do we have to? We might run late for the ceremony. How about I take you tomorrow?" He countered gently. "No," I insisted, my voice firm. "I have worries again. I need to resolve them now." He paused for a few seconds, then nodded to the driver. "Go that way." We drove in silence again, each lost in our own thoughts, watching the familiar scenery slide past. Then, through the window, I saw the rusty railings of the old park fence. My love began here. The car pulled over. The driver tactfully stepped out for a smoke, leaving us alone. I retrieved a single liqueur-filled chocolate from my small clutch purse and offered it to Ethan. He looked at it, then at me, puzzled. "Try it," I urged. "It's not the brand you were looking for, but it's the closest I could find." He unwrapped the foil, took a bite. The liquid center nearly spurted onto his pristine lapel. He grimaced, annoyed. Chewing quickly, he swallowed, then hastily took the tissue I offered, dabbing at his suit front with a frown. "You searched high and low for this taste?" I asked softly. "Was it good?" He couldn't hide his distaste. Too sweet. And the texture feels cheap. Good thing we didn't find them back then. He eyed me cautiously. Why did you give this to me? Chloe is divorced. What are you planning to do? No more circling around the issue. I asked him directly. He reacted like a startled cat, tension radiating from him. How did you know? She contacted me, naturally. But her intentions don't matter. I only want to know one thing from you. Do you still love her? He opened his mouth, hesitated, then finally offered a deflection. I don't want to settle, Olivia. Then marrying me isn't settling? This time, his answer was swift, emphatic. Honestly, I've thought about this constantly. I don't know if I love you, not in that all-consuming way perhaps. But I am certain, absolutely certain, that you're the most suitable person for me. Seeing the anxiety in his eyes, waiting for my reaction, I managed a light laugh, patted his hand. Let's go, I told the driver. We'll be late for the wedding. He visibly relaxed. Silence enveloped us again. As we crossed the long bridge spanning the bay, I opened my window, letting the vast sea breeze whip through the car, watching the seamless merge of sky and water. A sudden emptiness opened within me. Something vital felt like it was dissolving, fading away. My stubborn, unwavering love. I missed the Ethan I first met, the brave rescuer, the man who descended from nowhere. My Ethan. Then I thought of Chloe. She was like her favorite chocolate. She assumed she remained as enticing as she was in memory. But when Ethan finally tasted that flavor again, his immediate reaction was distaste, finding it cheap and overly sweet. The chocolate hadn't changed, he had. He loved the memory of the chocolate, not the reality of it now. Just as I loved the memory of the brave, devoted Ethan of the past, not this hesitant, compromised man beside me, weighing options, hedging bets, lacking courage. 6 years ago, I planted a seed of love in the old park. I tended it diligently with time and devotion. Now, it had finally borne fruit. Except the seed itself was flawed from the start. The fruit was bitter. With chilling clarity, I realized he was becoming another shadow in my life, much like my father had been for my mother. This exquisite wedding dress suddenly felt like a shroud. The wedding, a funeral, poised to bury the rest of my life. The urge to escape became unbearable. The officiant had now asked for the 6th time, "Do you, Olivia Reed, take this man, Ethan Hayes, to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I heard each repetition distinctly, but the words "I do" lodged themselves in my throat, refusing to emerge. Just moments ago, in the bridal suite, Ethan had received a call. A friend had arrived. He needed to go down and greet them. A perfectly normal excuse. But how could I not see through it? Slipping away from my attendants, kicking off my heels, I easily found them in the deserted fire escape stairwell on the same floor. A lover's clandestine meeting. "You obviously still love me," Chloe was pleading, her voice trembling slightly. "Even the wedding decorations, they're exactly what I always dreamed of. Why won't you forgive me? Is it just because I was married before?" Ethan's reply was cold, detached. "She was the one who walked beside me these past few years. You're reading too much into it. I don't love you anymore. Some habits are just hard to break." Chloe naturally refused to believe him. "I know you're just angry with me," she insisted, her tone shifting to vulnerability. "You feel responsible for her, that's all. It was my fault before, I know. But I'm back now. I'll make it up to you, Ethan, okay?" Then, she leaned in and kissed him. Ethan stood facing away from the stairwell door where I watched, hidden. I couldn't see his expression. But he didn't push her away. I turned and walked silently back to the bridal suite. Catching my reflection in the mirror, I was startled to see tears streaming down my face. In that moment, the decision was made. My mother would be heartbroken. My childhood vow, sworn in defiance, had come true after all. Clutching my bouquet, I walked down the aisle alone. No father to give me away. The aisle seemed impossibly long. Ethan waited at the end, smiling. That forced, not quite real smile. Just before entering the hall, I'd glanced at my phone one last time. Chloe had posted again, a series of photos from our wedding venue, the opulent decorations, the fairytale theme. Her caption, "This should have been my wedding." She wasn't wrong. Everything, the overflowing European fairytale aesthetic, the cherub decorations dangling overhead, the antique candelabras, the backdrop painted like a magnificent castle, The whimsical mushrooms and rabbits nestled amongst the floral arrangements at the entrance. It was all her dream, her specific brand of romance. I had almost forgotten I was the bride. Finally, the officiant posed the question for the 6th time. I gathered my courage. I made my choice. I didn't want to marry Ethan Hayes anymore. I looked him directly in the eye, my voice clear and steady. I don't. My gaze then shifted to Chloe, seated at a table near the stage. Her eyes widened, filled with disbelief and fury. Since she felt so wronged, so cheated out of this ending, why should I play the villain? Why force a union destined for misery, creating regrets for everyone involved? A man who didn't fit, a wedding that wasn't mine, I no longer wanted any part of it. I pulled off the elaborate veil, tossed the heavy bouquet aside. Ethan, caught completely off guard, grabbed my wrist. Olivia, don't do this. Marriage isn't a game. I laughed, a genuine, sharp sound this time. Exactly. Marriage isn't a game. So why on earth should I settle? He was speechless, his grip tightening instinctively, refusing to let go. Don't leave, Olivia, he pleaded, sudden panic in his eyes. I do love you. Yes, I love you. Just give me one more chance, please. His realization came too late. The man standing before me now wasn't the one I loved anymore. I still loved the memory of the brave young man who saved me, the man capable of fierce, unwavering devotion, even if it hadn't been for me. This current version, hesitant, compromising, oscillating between past and present, tinged with his father's weakness. I wouldn't let myself follow my mother's path to that bitter end. Knowing this road led only to despair, the only sane choice was to turn back. Really? I remember you saying once, I replied softly but firmly, meeting his desperate gaze, that you wouldn't force someone who didn't love you to stay. Ethan, the man you are now. I don't love him anymore. The flicker of disgust I couldn't quite hide in my eyes must have registered. He flinched as if struck, his grip loosening. I pulled my hand free, gathering the voluminous skirt of my wedding dress, ignoring the shocked gasps and curious stares of the assembled guests. I turned my back on the Fairytale stage, on the man I no longer loved, and walked away. Down the aisle I had just walked, smiling now, stride long and purposeful, out of the grand hall and into the bright, uncertain future. I had loved to the best of my ability. Now I was leaving without regret. It was time to find my own flavor of sweetness, a candy tailored just for me.